So today we're going to take a look at what's going to happen if the Muslim countries unite in the modern day. This video is going to be very unrealistic. All the events that are going to happen are purely fictional. But yeah, before we get into this video, I want to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel, also to the second channel where I'm uploading Age of History 3 videos. But with that said, now let's get right into the video. Even in our previous video, Eritrea was a part of the Christian Union. If you haven't watched that video, click the I button. But we're including them as a Muslim country too because they're kind of 50-50, so let's give them to both sides. All alliances are also disbanded, so keep that in mind. If all of the Muslim countries were to unite in the modern day, this union would be extremely unstable, but we're gonna have to ignore that, otherwise they won't be able to expand. But yeah, the first thing that they do right away after coming to life is they declare war on Israel. And assuming that Israel does not get any support from the West, we can see that the Muslim troops now push into Israel. They secure all of the northern regions. We can see that Jerusalem was also captured. The remaining parts of Israel surrender. And now the African regions of the Muslim Empire is connected to the mainland. The capital city might just be Cairo, or they might want to reconstruct Baghdad and make that the capital, I don't know. Let's just say that after coming to life, they are stable and all, but they still want to militarize their country to go on upcoming military campaigns. For that, we can see that a lot of troops are being recruited all over the country from all regions of the Union. They're all gathered up and it takes them a few years to build this whole military, after which they're going to continue with this expansion as now they go ahead and declare war on Spain and Portugal. This might seem very confusing. Out of all the countries, why Spain and Portugal? And that's because Spain and Portugal were basically Muslim. This region was called Al-Andalus. The Muslim Union now wants to revive that, and now they're going to be re-entering the Iberian Peninsula. We can see that the Muslims once again make a naval landing in the south after hundreds of years, and they secure some of these southern regions. The Spaniards are overwhelmed because the Muslims are there's just too many. We can see that the Muslims now start a push into Portugal, whose armies right after getting to the front lines were completely destroyed by the Muslim armies. The capital city was secured, and with all of their armies gone, we can see that the remaining parts of Portugal surrender. The Muslim Navy makes a naval landing in Catalonia, securing this entire region. A combined army now comes down here, and they start a push up. Their main goal is to eventually get to Madrid. And yeah, they were able to get to Madrid, where they faced the last army of the Spaniards, who just got defeated, and with the destruction of their armies, the remaining parts of Spain go ahead and surrender. This was a decisive victory for the Islamic Union, and we can see that in a peace negotiation, all of Spain and Portugal were completely annexed, and Al-Andalus has been revived. The Muslim Union basically first wants to take out the countries where there are a lot of Muslims, and they also want to unite their land. After a few more years of building up their armies, and after a few years of importing new weapons, making their own too, because this is just massive, we can see that the Muslim Union is ready for war. This time they declare war on India. There are about more than 200 million Muslims living in India, which is a lot. So let's see. At first though, we can see that the Indian troops now push into Bangladesh, as it was kind of isolated from the mainland. They meet some level of success, but over here in the west, we can see that the Islamic Union now pushes in, and since it's not just Pakistan but the entirety of the Muslim Union, they were easily able to secure all of Kashmir. I've heard that Pakistan and India are almost at war with each other. Let's hope that doesn't happen. At the same time, we can see that they started pushing from the south, securing some of these southern regions. The Indians are unable to push these guys back, as they are, even though it sounds crazy, but heavily outnumbered. The Indians sent their troops back to the western front lines, because of which they get pushed back in Bangladesh. But even with that, we can see that more and more troops arrive from the Islamic Union, and now one army starts to push towards New Delhi. The Indian armies are getting destroyed just because they are very heavily outnumbered. We can see that these troops also start to push up, trying to meet up with the main army, and eventually we can see that they were able to capture New Delhi. With their capital city being captured, they have lost hope. These parts surrender. We can see that the Islamic Union makes another huge encirclement. With this one, all of the northern parts go ahead and surrender. They get completely pushed out of Bangladesh, and now Bangladesh starts its own push, cutting off the eastern parts of India from the mainland, which go ahead and surrender. And finally, after a lot of bloodshed, we can see that the Bangladeshis were able to meet up with the main armies. But at this point, with most of their armies destroyed, and after knowing that the Islamic Union does not want to take all of India, we can see that the remaining parts go ahead and surrender. And now let's take a look at a peace negotiation here. Yeah, no, they took all of India. Best of luck for the Islamic Union on controlling 1.4 billion people now. There's gonna be a lot of rebellions going on over here, but just for the sake of the scenario, we're gonna ignore all of that. But this brings a huge advantage to the Islamic Union, as now they have access to all of the great military equipment from India, who is the fourth strongest country in the world. Their population kind of doubled now. If they can utilize that in a good way, I mean, good for the Islamic Union. But because of this war, the Islamic Union is also kind of weakened, so it's gonna take them some more time to recover from this. In this time, in order to unite all of South Asia, they sent ultimatums to Nepal, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka. These guys had to accept the ultimatums, and now that happened. Over here in the east, ultimatums were sent to Armenia and Georgia. Again, these guys also had to accept the ultimatums. But after a few more years of militarization, we can see that the Islamic Union is once again ready for war, as they want to expand their territory and they want to connect with their territories. We can see that Albania, Kosovo, and Bosnia, they're all disconnected from the mainland, which does not sit right with the Islamic Union. And guess what they do? With all of this new military that they built, and because Turkey is a major country in the Islamic Union, they decide to go against the Balkan countries again, including Cyprus, and things are not looking good for these countries. But yeah, let's see. Starting off, the Balkan forces were able to capture all of Kosovo. Albania kind of resists, but yeah, the Muslim armies now push into Greece. They eventually get to Thessaloniki, and they were able to meet up with the Albanians. North Macedonia surrenders. We can see that Kosovo was recaptured. One army now pushes into Bulgaria, destroying all of their armies and securing their capital city, after which they go ahead and surrender. Montenegro just surrenders without a fight. Another army now pushes up into Serbia. At the same time, one army is pushing down into Greece. Athens was captured. Belgrade too was captured, and with all of this, we can see that the remaining parts of these countries surrender. Cyprus too surrendered, and we can see that the Ottoman Empire is back. In a way it is, but it's the entirety of the Muslim Union. I wonder if the Pope is screaming for a crusade. I really think he is, but that military campaign was a huge success. Hard to believe, but the US has some good terms with these guys, even though they have been doing a lot of expansion here. The US does not appreciate that, but the Islamic Union does not have good relations with neither Russia or China, so that's a plus point. Things get so bad between the Islamic Union and China that eventually, after seeing the Chinese suppression of the Uyghur people who live in the Xinjiang province of China, which is majority Muslim, we can see that the Islamic Union makes a bold move and they declare war on the third strongest country in the world, but after years of preparations. Also to be noted that the Islamic Union has some support from the US, and combining all of their military assets all together, we can see that now they're going against China here. So let's see. We can see that a huge Muslim army now pushes into China from the northwest. They also start a push in from Kashmir, and they're basically trying to liberate these regions, especially the Xinjiang province. The Chinese armies now arrive on the front lines, but are unable to push these guys back because the Islamic Union is very strong at this point, and also because they have some support from the United States. They make an encirclement here. The Chinese almost get encircled in all of these regions, but they managed to get out in time. This fast progress only happened because the local population was also supporting the Islamic Union, and the Islamic Union continues its push. They're basically trying to liberate all of Xinjiang, which they kind of do. The Chinese are not able to push them back. We can see that another army enters from India, and now the Chinese are fighting a two-front war. At this point, after not being able to push these guys back correctly, the Chinese conscript a lot of men, everyone in their population. They give them guns and they send them to the front lines. The Islamic Union does get pushed back as huge armies arrive. They also get pushed back over here from the Indian region, and a small push is made into India. And overall, they're kind of getting pushed back here. But even more troops arrive, and these troops are very well experienced, unlike the fresh conscripts from China. And with the arrival of these troops, the Chinese get absolutely devastated. They lose most of their armies, and the remaining armies now start to retreat to secure the more highly populated regions of China, which are these, because of which the western provinces are now left at the mercy of the Islamic Union. They get pushed back from India once again, and the troops down in India now start to push up. Knowing that there aren't many Chinese troops to prevent an encirclement, they push up and encircle all of the western regions of China, which then go ahead and surrender. But at this point in the war, because the Islamic Union did not not want to take all of China and did not want to vassalize or puppet them. They all come down to a peace negotiation. And now let's take a look at this peace negotiation here. In a peace negotiation, we can see that the Chinese lost all of Xinjiang, plus some provinces here in the west. They also lost Tibet. Because of this, they are heavily weakened. Their economy has went down. At the same time, the Islamic Union also suffered from a lot of casualties. So once again, it's going to take them a lot of time to recover from this. But again, in this recovery time, they start to send out ultimatums in order to connect with Indonesia. They send ultimatums to Burma and Thailand, or Myanmar and Thailand. Both these guys had to accept as they saw what happened to China. They don't want to get rolled over. And there we go. The Islamic Union is now fully connected. But because of all of this expansion that they did, a lot of countries are now against them. A group of countries decide to form a coalition against the Islamic Union. These countries include Russia, Belarus, as well as the Chinese, who are at this point very much weakened, but you know, they still have some strength. And let's see who actually wins this war. But yeah, this video got a little too long, so we can't cover that war in this video. But if this video gets enough support, I'm definitely gonna make a part 2 on this video where you'd see the result of this coalition. But yeah, this is gonna be it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me what you guys want to see in the future. Thank you for watching.